Welcome to a quick edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. Man, I just got done watching the Rising Stars Challenge. I'm sure most of you did too. And I couldn't help but notice how much our guy, Jaylen Tyson, stood out. He often has this flair for showing up in big time games. And yeah, this is a low stakes environment. This is not a standard NBA game by any means, but at the same time, Jalen has always had this nature about him of showing up whenever you need him to. And he would finish tonight with 10 points and five rebounds in his in totality playing for Team T-Mac out there. And I really honestly thought that they were going to emerge victorious from this one, but I wasn't all that mad about the end result, considering that this is a glorified exhibition game. So it was pretty cool to see that. Jalen, he kind of got things kicked off by throwing an alley-oop out there, something that we know that has been a part of his game as of late, which I'll talk about that just in a second, because I think with the addition of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell obviously still being here and being a high usage player, I think that you have to consider the fact that the on-ball reps for Tyson with the Cavaliers might not come as flush as they had been before the acquisition of James Harden, and to a latter extent, Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis as well. But at the same time, you can clearly see this is part of his game. So he threw the alley oop out there. That was nice to see. He knocked down a couple of triples. He got to the rim. And something else that we have come to see from Tyson this season, especially alongside lineups featuring Donovan Mitchell, has been him acting and functioning as a pick and roll man. He did that tonight in the Rising Stars game. You saw him roll to the rim and draw a foul, which resulted in some free throws, which was cool to see, because everything, everything that you saw him do out there on that court tonight, he's been doing all season long, which that clearly shows you that the viability of Tyson performing can translate to any environment, right? Whether that be in an exhibition type of game like this, in a regular season game, or in my opinion, a postseason setting. I think everything that you have seen from Tyson this season, which has been absolutely phenomenal for him, can translate to any environment because of how malleable he is. You need him to play off ball, he can do that. He can knock down open shots from the perimeter. He moves around. He's very good in terms of off ball movement. He will cut to the basket. He will screen and roll as a 6'5" wing out there, which is nice to see, because you don't have too many wings that will do that. That will, screen for the primary ball handler and then roll towards the rim in an effort to either draw contact or get to the basket and throw up a layup or something like that. But Tyson, all of what we saw tonight from him has been something that we have seen all season long, and it's resulted in one of the best stories this season for the Cavaliers, in a year that didn't necessarily start off that well in terms of not only wins and losses but vibes too. We didn't have a lot to feel good about in the early going of the season, and Tyson, along with a handful of others, has been a bright spot all season long, even when he's gone through small stretches where he may not be necessarily knocking down as many shots as you would want. But today, as of right now, during this All-Star break, through 50 total appearances for Tyson, this young man is averaging 13.9 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 2.3 assists, while shooting a blistering 51.4% from the field, including 47.5% from three-point range, which is the big one that sticks out because of how efficient it is, right? You just don't see guys shooting that efficiently from three-point distance that often. As of today, he is second in the entire league in that category. I don't think anybody saw that coming this year, especially after his rookie season, right? And again, it was limited action, just 9.6 minutes per game. But we're talking about a guy who was shooting 34.5% from deep last season. He is shooting just tremendously high levels this year compared to last year, 47.5%. Again, second in the entire NBA. He has knocked down 104 triples this season. That is phenomenal stuff. And you saw that play out on that court tonight for Team T Mac, which is just awesome to see. I could say that 10,000 times over. Just everything you've seen from him this entire season, you saw tonight. And for Tyson, this is what really is going to be interesting for me moving forward, because we know that Evan Mobley will be back post All-Star. We know that Dean Wade will be back post All-Star as well. Obviously, Max Strus will factor in here too. But the biggest question mark I have as of right now is who is going to man that starting three position. Now, you guys know that I have been a very big proponent of Tyson starting at the three because I feel like he has earned that job. But I do have to admit, right, with the acquisition of James Harden, with the recent play of Jarrett Allen and trying to make the most of particular skill sets out there, I just don't know if it still makes sense for that to be the case. You can obviously make a case for him remaining there because of his connectivity, because of how malleable he is, as I continue to mention that, right? He can serve as a connector, and he can perform very, very well off the ball. We know that we have seen that from him all season long. But prior to the acquisition of Harden, we had really seen him starting to emerge as this secondary creator out there, this secondary ball handler, somebody who was developing a decent chemistry with Jarrett Allen in the pick and roll, in the dribble handoff, in some of these sets that normally are reserved for Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell as the two primary creators. And again, a lot of that was simply because of necessity, but it was an area that he was showing major improvement in. Now, with Harden in town, I just don't know if those on-ball reps will come as often as they had. I think it will be relegated strictly to an off-ball role, which begs the question: would you rather have that skill set of his as that creator coming off the bench, where you can put the ball in his hands a little bit more, where you can continue to develop and hone those skills? I think there is a real conversation to be had around that, juxtaposed to Dean Wade, who we know can operate perfectly fine off the ball. But what it all boils down to is shots. If Dean Wade can't make his shots in the starting lineup, it's Tyson's job. Like either way, because you that guy, that fifth starter out there at the three needs to be able to knock down the open shot, because we know that James Harden's gravity, we know that Donovan Mitchell's gravity, we know that Evan Mobley will demand touches as a third option out there, and Jarrett Allen being this rim rolling savant next to James Harden in the 1-5 pick and roll. These are all guys who will function very well in their respective roles. But if that starter at the three is not knocking down the shots, there's no real question that Dean Wade should not play there if that is not the case. But I'm very, very interested to see what that looks like from a coaching standpoint. Does he opt to give Dean Wade a short leash? Does he just continue to roll with Tyson in the starting unit? Because as of late, Tyson hasn't been starting at the three. He's actually drawing starts at the four, playing a very undersized power forward in those minutes. And it's been hit and miss at times. I've seen him try and function as trying to do some things that a traditional big might do, like function more as a pick and roll man. But again, you don't want to become over reliant on him doing that. And you don't want to take him too far out of his comfort zone and not utilize some of the diverse skills in that skill set that he tends to operate with. So I'm very, very interested to see what Kenny Atkinson does with that, because there's so many different mouths to feed. This is suddenly a very deep team at particular positions. I know the three is not one of those positions, but there are a lot of guys that can eat minutes there. Dean, Tyson, Max, Ellis, Sam at certain points, Naquan. I mean, there's a number of players on this roster that can and will play minutes at the three. And so Tyson, maybe he doesn't get to start, maybe he does, but that's a decision for Kenny Atkinson to make post All-Star. All I know is tonight was yet another reminder of how wonderful it is to see Jaylen Tyson's development play out in real time. And again, just an exhibition, no stakes type of environment. It's All-Star weekend. We're all enjoying it, having a good time. We all hoped that Team T-Mac would win, I assume, if you're a Cavaliers fan. But to me, like, just to see him go out there and replicate a lot of these same things that he has done all season long on a big stage with a lot of people viewing on Peacock, right? That's a big deal. That's name exposure. That is, if you're a casual viewer of the NBA, if you're a casual viewer of the Cleveland Cavaliers and you weren't as familiar with who Jaylen Tyson is, I mean, like you should be, obviously, if you're a Cavaliers fan. But if you're just a casual viewer of the NBA and you may not have known who Tyson was, tonight was a good opportunity for him to put his talent on display and get that much closer to becoming a household name. Now, again, they lost, but at the end of the day, it was nice to see him perform quite well. Again, he would finish tonight with 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. I believe he shot 3 of 5 from the field, with 2 of those 3 makes coming from 3-point distance, and he knocked down his free throws. Good stuff to see out of one Jaylen Tyson. And I'll tell you what, I honestly, I hoped that Naquan Tomlin would have been invited to the Rising Stars, but there was a deep pool of players, and there was no way in hell he was going to make it. I really did hope he would have been invited to participate in the dunk contest because Tomlin has thrown down some crazy dunks this season, whether that be putbacks or in transition or off of turnovers or just cutting to the basket out of the dunker spot. There have been so many massive Naquan Tomlin dunks, and maybe he's more so an in-game dunker like LeBron, but I wish he would have competed in the dunk contest. But at the very least, we have Donovan Mitchell competing in that 3-point competition, which is an area, frankly, that Jaylen Tyson could have been a part of too, considering, again, second in the NBA in 3-point percentage, 104 triples made for Tyson. Sam Merrill obviously could have fit in that competition too. A uh, nice little nod back to Sam Merrill, the jersey that Donovan Mitchell wore during his previous entrance in the 3-point contest. I think that you definitely could have made a case for all 3 of these guys to have been in it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm reading some of these comments down here. It's kind of throwing me up. What's up, Nate? He says, dunk contest is about star power. They're not going to put Naquan Tomlin in the All-Star game. You tripping. They have had G League talents Mac McClung. Do you not know who that is? Always got to show love to another Mac. It's not always about star power. I mean, the dunk contest hasn't been about star power in quite some time because a lot of stars just frankly refuse to take place in that competition. So, no. And no, I don't think Mac McClung has star power. The average viewer, the average NBA casual viewer does not know who Mac McClung is. If you tuned in to a game and you saw Mac McClung enter the game, you would not know. To the casual viewer, again, we're NBA fans, Nate. We watch this game, but to the casual fan, the person that's just flipping the channels, no, they don't know who Mac McClung is. That's not star power. I appreciate the fact that Mac has done well for himself in the dunk contest, but he don't really got star power. Either way, I would have loved to have seen Naquan in there because he's done some crazy things with the basketball. To me, I think that you see environments like this, and it can be a jumping off point for getting name recognition. And Mac has gone that far. I think Tomlin, after earning earning the standard deal off the 2-way contract this season, that would have been a perfect flower, cherry on top, feather in the cap, whatever saying you want to utilize. It would have been a perfect feather in the cap to Naquan Tomlin type of season. But again, at least we have Donovan Mitchell in both the 3-point contest and the All-Star game itself. And to add on to that, there have been a lot of different replacements because of injuries for the All-Star roster. And I was really hoping, and I know it was never going to happen considering the timing of it all and the injuries to certain players on the roster. But I was really hoping that we would have gotten a second admission into the All-Star game. And that obviously probably could have gone to Evan Mobley. And I know this has been quite an up and down season for Evan Mobley from a production standpoint. But when you actually just deep dive into the statistics for Mobley, it's not a bad season at all. 17.9 points per game for Evan is not as high as it was last year, but it's still second most points of his career. 8.8 rebounds, 4 assists, which is actually a career best for him. And he is shooting 51.2% from the field. 3-point percentage has been god awful this year at 30.4%. But I think you can make an argument, especially with the defensive side of the basketball like a front seat, and the offense kind of taking a back seat over this last stretch of games from Mobley, at least since he had been on the court. Um, he was really starting to look like the front runner, or at the very least, a top 3 candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Like since December, mid-December, the man was absolutely destroying people on the defensive side of the ball, just blocking everything in sight. So it sucked to see the timing of that injury happen. I'll be glad when he gets back post All-Star, but I'll tell you what, I was really, really hoping that due to some of these injuries and guys not going to be playing in the All-Star game, that Mobley would have been added as a replacement, but that didn't happen. I'm not mad about it, but it would have been nice to see. Again, at least we got Donnie. Donnie will be there for as long as he is for as long as he is a Cleveland Cavalier. He will be representing Cleveland in the All-Star game because he is just that big of a player, just that big of a star out there. And I'm glad that we at least got one guy. Oh man, I'm just at a place right now where prior to some of these moves that this team has made, I didn't know quite how the season would end for this team. But now it's like a breath of fresh air, right? I still have some of my skepticisms, and I don't have a pessimistic view on James Harden at all. But as I mentioned after the trade, like I was approaching it cautiously optimistic. And after watching the first 3 games of the Harden era, granted, it's an extremely small sample size, I'm very encouraged about this team's potential. I do definitely believe they should be the favorite to be the Eastern Conference participant for the finals. I do think they will be the representative for the Eastern Conference. But again, I'm not trying to downplay some of the other teams in the East. Detroit, obviously, being the number 1 seed right now, they played phenomenal all season long. They do have some suspensions, obviously, that will affect them. But I definitely believe that when this team returns to full strength, when you get Mobley back, when you get Dean back, when you get Max, this is going to be a hard team to stop because there's so many different things that opposing defenders have to worry about. Are you going to double James Harden, but leave open some of the very high-level shot makers on this team in a Jaylen Tyson, in a Donovan Mitchell? Are you going to continue to be beaten in the pick and roll game by Jarrett Allen? It's kind of a pick and roll poison thing. They're not flawless. They obviously, no team in the NBA is flawless. They have their flaws. They still have some areas where opposing teams can exploit, but those flaws are less pronounced because you don't have an issue with backcourt size anymore, as James Harden has showcased that he can be a very, very good help defender out there. He's not a great point of attack defender, but one area that he does typically play above average in is help defense. And you see that play out in the form of blocks. And it's crazy to see him block so many shots in just these 3 games. So you can't really pick on them in that area anymore because Donovan has instantly become the smallest player in that starting 5 at 6'3". James Harden is not a small guy. Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, damn near 7 foot. And yeah, the starting 3 position, depending upon what direction you're going with that, there could be somewhat of a size discrepancy there. But if you're starting Dean Wade, who is at about 6, what do we think Dean is? 6'9", 6'8"? Is that what we classify him as from a size standpoint? I know B-Ball Index has him, or Basketball Reference rather has him at 6'9" or so, but he's probably around 6'8". But again, if you're starting Dean, you don't really have to worry about that. You don't really have to worry about size, period, if you are starting Dean, because your smallest player, again, is Donovan Mitchell. So you can't exploit that. You can't really exploit too many different things. But again, they're not flawless. they're going to have some things to work out if Evan Mobley's shot from 3-point distance doesn't return to some semblance of respect, because you're going to have a spacing issue in that front court between Mobley and Allen, especially with James Harden in town. We know he needs space. He needs that paint to be a little bit clear so that he can drive to the basket. You can, I'm reading these comments, it's crazy. You can drive to the basket a lot with that open space, with Jarrett Allen being the lone big out there. But if Mobley is out there and he's not knocking down shots, it's going to be really tough, really tough and difficult for them to get downhill as consistently as they has, or rather as they have. So Mobley's shot has to return. Dean has to be able to knock down those open shots. Those are really the flaws right now that you can probably look to exploit, as the defense will probably sag off of both of these guys until they can make them pay. And they'll end up doubling Donnie or doubling up James or whoever else they have out there beside them, whether that be Sam Merrill or Jaylen Tyson or Keon Ellis or Max or whoever else out there. But what I'm trying to say is the potential, the ceiling, definitely higher. I'm just waiting to see how this looks come the postseason, because as I've stated numerous times, to me, you're not going to sway me as easily with the rest of this regular season. There's nothing that James Harden could do during the regular season that can make me feel like, oh, you know what? This was a slam dunk of a move. It looks good right now, though. You'd have to be a madman. It'd be fucking crazy to say it doesn't, because with the level of offensive production that they have put up in these first 3 games of the Harden era, I just think that you have to be able to show it come the playoffs, because that's where reputations are made. Let me hop in the comment section here before I take too long. iKiddo6 says Harden has historically played with bigs that don't space the floor. He has, but usually that's just one. You can say Clint Capella, obviously, but guess what? They had a spacer out there at the 4. Ivica Zubac, they put a spacer at the 4 next to him as well. So it's not double big lineups. So Mobley and Allen, one of them, in order to make best use of Harden's ability to get into the paint and to be able to knock down the shots around the rim, one of these guys has to be able to space. And Mobley, while he can, he's shown that. He did just last year. He's been god awful this season from 3-point distance. Again, I'll run the number by you guys one more time. He's shooting 30.4% from 3-point distance this year. The dude shot 37% last year. He's a 7% difference. That's huge. It's not a small thing. And he's actually attempting more triples this year, 3.8 per game. So in order for things to work in regards to the spacing of it all and not like revert back to where it was a couple of seasons ago, Mobley has got to get that percentage back up to around 35, 36, 37%. I'd be satisfied with that, because it'll help pull defenders out of the paint and it won't be as clogged. And you don't get back to having a clogged paint for the ball handlers out there like Donovan, like James, who can get to the rim at will. But that's harder to do when the paint is clogged or if your defenders are sagging off of your bigs. So we'll end up seeing how that happens. But again, it's not as if James has played with double bigs his entire career. If you look back at those Houston teams, it was not double big most of the time. It was Clint Capella at the 5 and them going to work with that because of the spacing that everybody else from positions 2, 3, and 4 could provide. It wasn't just double. It wasn't bigs that can't space. It was one big usually. But that's a question that Kenny Atkinson and company are going to have to figure out. So I'll be very interested in seeing. I know we've kind of gone on a tangent here, but yeah, I think that stuff is all relative. HJ17 Gaming says, I hate Peacock. Honestly, I don't. I hate paying for all these freaking subscriptions, but I'll tell you what, Peacock actually has some good content. I don't know. I'm not trying to plug Peacock or anything, but I don't know how many of you guys have it out there, but there's a lot of good shows on there. There truly is. And they have access to a lot of different content there. Shows, I think Supernatural just got put on there, all 15 seasons of that. I don't know if you guys are fans of that, but I mean, the Winchesters, You know, Jared Padalecki and um, I don't know why I'm spacing out on the other Winchester's name because I'm a huge fan. I know he's in the boys too. But either way, I think that Peacock has some good qualities to it. It's not the only bad point to me is having to pay for yet another subscription to watch NBA games if you're not streaming them illegally, like some people out there do. um, let's see here. Funny 25 size says, "How do you feel about Mobley's AT&T nickname?" I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, what's in a name for NBA players? I think for Mobley, opinions about expectations have shifted after the Harden trade. You went from having to be no worse than the second best player on the team to win a title to you need to be a high level third option. But I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. And honestly, with the way that Jarrett Allen is playing, it's tough to forecast what this offense will look like. It will be one of those where on any given night, one of these guys will look like the third option. Some of these guys may look like the second option that you expect to be the third option most of the time. Maybe Evan Mobley will take on a role in certain games where he looks like the second best player on the team. But it's so difficult to try and say what this will look like without having actual film with Harden and Mobley and Allen and Mitchell all in the same lineup at the same time. Let's see here. Nate 406 says Allen ain't no 7-footer. No, he's not 7 foot, but like people like to think of him as that. He's around 6'10". I mean, you can look in various places. They have these guys. Height is one that people consistently, I feel like, lie about in the NBA. I know people think about the afro and like, oh, that gives them a couple of, that's a boost to the overall size. But B-Ball Reference has him listed at 6'9", and you can find that in various places. What it reminds me of is I don't know how long you guys have been in this, who are in this chat have been following the Cavaliers. Maybe you are new to the team. Maybe you came over with the James Harden with the James Harden trade or not. But for years, they tried to tell us that Kevin Love was what 6'10", 6'11" or so. And Kevin Love's final couple of seasons with the Cavaliers, I shit you not, they had him listed like 6'8", 6'9", like in various places. So height is one of these things that I think is reported differently on different websites, and no matter where you look, I think it's all relative, right? Just like Dean Wade, I was talking about earlier, he's listed at 6'9". I mean, 6'8", that's where I'm at with him. I mean, even Jaylen Tyson, he was measured at 6'5.5" at the combine without shoes, but in shoes, he's about 6'7", right? So no pun intended, but I think that when you really look at it, size is one of those things that's constantly it's inconsistent from season to season. As Dino says, Larry Nance is 6'6". I mean, I've had Larry on the show multiple times. I think one of the comments that he made that he was on the show was making like poking fun at his size, calling himself an undersized big. And he's another guy. Again, he's listed at 6'6". It's gone up and down throughout the seasons. I remember the days where Larry was listed at 6'8", 6'9" himself. It is so far, it is so inconsistent in the NBA. Anytime you think about how tall these guys are. Masterling, who says, who is the Cavaliers' most important defensive player, Allen or Mobley? It's hard to say. Um, I think that it's still Mobley. Allen, here's the thing, right? Allen does not get the credit that he deserves from a defensive standpoint because Mobley overshadows him. Mobley is more switchable, but Allen is also switchable. Mobley is elite at protecting the rim, and he is very high level at switching out to the perimeter to defend smaller and quicker players. But because of that, Jarrett Allen is often overshadowed because he's not quite at that level. He's not somebody that I think will ever be named to an all defensive team. He may get votes in any given year, but to me, I think that when you truly think about how Mobley's ability to kind of function as a free safety out there, it's difficult to not say Mobley. I think he is the most important defensive player on this team outside of, unfortunately, right now, Dean Wade. And I know that's a name that people might think is crazy to put in this type of conversation, but because this team now lacks size out of the front court at the three specifically, um, Dean Wade's ability to guard on the wings, because he is a high level wing defender. I've pointed this out 10 times over. People feel how they feel about Dean Wade, but he remains a very important fixture on this team for really interesting reasons. Not necessarily because he's the best defender on the team. He's not, obviously, but because of what he can do in terms of versatility out on the wing. He is one of the best wing defenders in basketball. He is somebody that is on a very small contract, rather relative to what his impact and wins over replacement from a defensive standpoint says. But due to the offensive limitations, the injuries, and inconsistencies at times, people don't view him in the way that they probably should. But very important piece. I would just say that Mobley is probably the most important defender on the team. Allen's close, is in the conversation between Dean and uh, between Dean and Allen for second place, but Mobley to me is still the most important defensive player. Nate 406 says Mobley is a special player. They will sometimes run zone with him at the top, which is unheard of for a 6'11. Yeah, I mean, they did this in the playoffs against Indiana, and it worked at points when they didn't overdo it. And I think they did it against Miami too. You don't often see that. You just don't. Because bigs his size are not supposed to be as switchable as they are. He's not the only big that can do it. I mean, there's a handful of them out there that can. Well, obviously, Wemby, he's capable of doing that because he is the best defender in the world, in my opinion, right now. I mean, no disrespect to Evan, but had Wemby not gone down, I think we all knew that that was going to be Wemby's award, and rightfully so. I have no problem admitting that. Wemby is the superior player, but Mobley is Mobley is no slouch. He's definitely earned his awards, and he's earned his accolades. He's a two-time All Defensive Teamer. He is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. He won't win it again this year, but he's pretty awesome on that side of the ball. He's one of the top 5 defenders in the world, in my opinion. But I know this is kind of spiraling. Let's see here. What else? What else we got here? We got Isaac on YouTube says, I generally hope Ricochet is hooping in China next year. Oh my gosh. Oh man. I don't know why you made that comment. Let's see here. We got as Dino, who says Wemby should be depoy if he reaches the games played quota. I think that like so many different things have skewed what the qualification should be to win some of these awards, right? Obviously, there's a 65 game rule that you have to appear in 65 games to be in consideration for these awards. But these days, where we live in a world where players constantly load manage or are in and out of the lineup, you never truly know what's going to happen. Like in Wemby last year, again, should have won that award had he stayed healthy. He played, I want to say, 46 games last year, and up to the point before he was ruled out, like he was the odds-on favorite. He was the odds-on favorite to win it, and rightfully so. This year, he has appeared in 40 games. And I think that, again, you still got a 25 game 25 games to hit before you can officially consider yourself in consideration for said awards, but it's just gonna be so difficult to know whether or not these guys are gonna finish and meet the qualifications, but I think that there's a lot of names vying for that. Chet is obviously up there. I don't not a fan of Chet, but I mean, I can't lie. I mean, he wouldn't be an undeserving candidate, but I definitely would prefer somebody else to win. Mobley will not win, but he has been absolutely dominant on the defensive end, especially as of December. But I mean, it's a long season. We still got a second half to play. Dr. Claw, what's up, man? He says AT&T is no more. Long live E-Mobile. That's fire. I can't even lie. That is a fire name. I don't know if you coined that, but that's a good one. That's a good one. Even Nate here is giving you some credit, says that's fire. Matt Sterling says, why is Sam Merrill so cheap? He should be worth at least 20 million. Honestly, if he were playing the way that he played this year, last year, he would be probably like a 15, $16 million guy. I don't know about 20 million, but he was on a bargain contract. I think that after coming off the season that he had last year, the pay that he received, you can argue that it was justifiable because again, he played 71 games last year. That was a career high for him, but had only shot 37.2% from 3-point distance and just 40.6% from the field and only averaged 7.2 points per game. So, I mean, it made sense to give him the contract that he got because I don't think a lot of people envisioned him shooting damn near 50% this season. He shot 47.2%, right behind Jaylen Tyson. He's in the top 5. So obviously this has coincided with a larger role, but even the most optimistic of fans out there in the fan base, and I consider myself a very optimistic Cavaliers fan, even the most optimistic of fans out there probably wouldn't have told you that they envisioned him shooting as good as he has this season, even though we know the past, he's always been a great shooter. But the emergence of Merrill this year on not only the shot making standpoint, because that's an area that we've always known that he is capable of being a high level performer in, but the continued emergence as a defender at the point of attack, because I will continue to say this, Sam Merrill, though undersized, depending upon the lineups that he's played in, is an underrated point of attack defender. And as a connector out there, he functions pretty well. He's not a terrible rebounder, but he'll never be a guy that racks up a ton of boards. But what I'm trying to say is I think that he was paid relative to his performance up to that point. Now, if he was in a contract year this year, yeah, they'd be paying out the big bucks to try and retain him. Kmart says Merrill is a champion. That he is with the Milwaukee Bucks. If those of you tuning in to this weren't aware, Sam Merrill actually won a championship. He does have a ring with the Milwaukee Bucks from the 2021-22 season, if I'm not mistaken, or, with the actually 2020-21 season, right? So the year after the bubble championship, where Milwaukee won the title with Giannis obviously being the lead player. But I mean, it's not like he contributed heavily in that, but he does have the ring, obviously. He played 8 games for Milwaukee during that postseason, averaging 3.8 minutes per game and 0.6 points per game. But he is a guy that has a ring, which is awesome. Demaris McCoy says he's still a little weak body, though. Honestly, I don't think so. I think that the one thing that I respect the most about Sam Merrill, despite the shot making being so proficient and efficient, is his ability to put his body in harm's way. Yeah, he might not hold up as well as other guys in the NBA, but you can't tell me that this dude, this motherfucker, is afraid to put his body in harm's way. He will routinely go out there and attempt to draw charges. He will routinely take some pretty hard fouls and try and run through screens at points. So I have a huge amount of respect for Sam Merrill. HJ17 Gaming says, thoughts on Riley Minix? Actually, as it would happen to be the case, I actually have a video that will release after this stream about Riley Minix. I knew people were going to ask about that after seeing the two-way signing. And to be honest with you guys knew if you followed the channel for any length of time, or at the very least since this past offseason, you knew that I was a big fan of Norchad Omier. After the conversion of Naquan Tomlin, I honestly thought that they would go that route with the final two-way, because Norchad has been balling this year for the Charge, but they really liked Minix. He has size to him. He can play the guard. He's been extremely efficient from three-point distance this year. I mean, honestly, this dude is shooting 45.7% from three-point range with the Cleveland Charge right now through his first 12 appearances with them on good volume, 5.8 attempts per game. He's somebody that can knock down that shot, and I think the Cavaliers, anytime they can see a dude out there who has a little bit of size to him that can knock down shots on high volume, they're going to try and take a look at him. And this is what they do. They bring guys in, and keep this in mind. They're already going into the second half of the season. There's not going to be a lot amount of games for him to see real action with the Cavs. So most of his time will be spent in the G League still with the Charge, but keeping him in-house, getting him a closer look, and having him around actual NBA pros juxtaposed to G League guys could be important for his development. And if it's the one thing that we can say about this Cavaliers team as of late, if you don't say anything else, and there's a lot to say about him, if there's one thing that you can say about this team, it's that their player development over these last, I would say, 6 to 7 years or so has been phenomenal. It's not all hits, but there have been a lot of them that have really panned out quite well. And maybe that doesn't always look like a long NBA career, but if you are somebody that enjoys like long-term development, and guys simply making it into the NBA and breaking through when they had no real business being there, or they didn't or weren't given opportunities for a lot of other teams, this team has done quite well in this area. When you talk about guys like Lamar Stevens, who had a pretty lengthy stay with Cleveland. When you talk about Dean Wade, who's a product of this same player development system. When you talk about Sam Merrill, who again didn't start with Cleveland, but Cleveland, he was the #1 overall pick in the G League draft by the Charge. They believed in him enough to do that. They brought him in. He's been with the team for a number of years now. He rose up the ranks. He got his opportunities. He made the most of them. Now he's top 5 in the NBA in three-point percentage. He's flat out balling, having a career season. We talk about Craig Porter Jr., unheralded, undrafted pick who has had productive points in the seasons for the Cavaliers over his first 3 years. You talk about what could become of Tyrese Proctor. There's a number of guys that have come up through the years, through the player development ranks that could, and Naquan Tomlin, right, personifies it because of his hustle and heart and energy out there. So many names. I'm gonna obviously I've left out a bunch of them, but I'm just giving you the answers that that you're asking for right now, just because I think that this player development team deserves its flowers. And while I wanted Norchad Omier to get that opportunity, while I would have been okay with a couple of other options, I think that I trust in the player development team and department to continue to churn out some of these productive players. So if it's Minix, who does look intriguing, if you've watched the film at all, got no choice but to be excited about what he could potentially bring to the table. Obviously, it will not be a potential thing that you'll see this year because the team is stacked. But I think that you have to understand that there's only so many mouths that you can feed. Either way, the video will be dropping about that. Nate 406 says, Mac, you still have Luke Travers, DeAndre Hunter in the bio. Yeah, that's copy and paste most of the time, to be honest with you, Nate. It's one of those things where to adjust the bio and the hashtags for each one of these, sometimes I just don't have the time. I mean, to be honest with you, I just don't. So I will eventually drop it and adjust it. I mean, I create all these things myself. I'm a one-man show, so it's one of those things. Let's see here. Damaris McCoy says, I like Travers' look, though. To be honest with you, I was really, really hoping that Luke Travers would turn into something. They gave him the opportunity. He had the runway. He played in Australia for a number of years before they brought him over. Even gave him like 3 different summer leagues to turn into something, and that just did not happen in the way in which some of us really envisioned. Either way, you're going to have some hits. You're going to have some misses that go along with those. And I think they have hit on more of these second rounders and undrafted guys than they have missed. I mean, but there's a long list of guys they've missed on over the last couple of years. Khalifa Diop, there's been Isaiah Mobley, obviously. Travers gets added to this list. Emoni Bates, obviously. There's a number of guys that they have drafted over the last couple of years that have not panned out. But again, there's been more that haven't. So their player development, because again, you're not going to hit on all of them. If any player, if any department in regards to player development hit on every single one of their developmental projects, I mean, they would literally be employed for the rest of their careers. No team would let go of that department and the guys within it because they would consistently churn them out. The moral of the story is you will not always hit on some of these selections, but they've been doing good. They have been doing good as of late. That's probably about it for tonight. I know this went from Jaylen Tyson propaganda to having having conversations that have had absolutely nothing to do with Tyson, but I'm excited about the future of this team, the potential that they have. Obviously, there's nothing that will occur during the rest of this regular season that will take me to levels of where I was at last year from an excitement standpoint. So it really all just boils down to how they perform come the 2025-26 playoffs. Will Harden have like a signature moment this postseason that cements his legacy and turns it from him being a playoff choker to being considered genuinely a playoff legend? Will Donovan Mitchell finally get to the coveted finals that he wants to, right? I mean, hell, will he get to the Eastern Conference Finals? Will Evan Mobley turn into this beast as a third option? There's so many questions that need to be answered, but I'll tell you what, I am very, very excited about where they are right now. If you're still here by now, consider liking, subscribe to the Cavalier podcast if you're not yet a subscriber, all that good stuff that I always tell you. If you want to support the show in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon or YouTube. You can do that for $1 a month. But even if you don't, you know your boy will still be here because I love this team. I know y'all do too. Go Cavs.